Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Sorry I'm stuck in the garage, but it's been raining for like 3 friggin' days and I'm just so over it. So this is an introduction video. I should have done this a long time ago, but it is what it is. So I'm going to introduce myself to you guys, the viewers, so maybe you kind of get a better idea where I'm coming from. Hi, my name is Clint and I'm a Jeep addict. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, though I'm originally from the great state of Ohio. This is my second tour of duty in North Carolina. I spent 7 years here. Well, not really 7 years, but I was in the Corps for 7 years, and a big part of that was stationed here in North Carolina. I left North Carolina, lived in Tennessee for 17 years, and then because of my job, I'm back in North Carolina again. My background into Jeeping started when I was 17 years old, 1985, 86-ish area. Yeah, I'm really that old. I bought a 78 CJ7 for $1,500. Now think about that for a second. That's a 7-year-old vehicle for $1,500, right? But ever since that CJ, I've been hooked. I did things. It had the 258 4.2 liter straight 6 in it, and that's really where I started learning about Jeeps. I blew the 4.2 up, so my mother had passed away, and there I was, a kid with a life insurance policy. No smarts, no concept of what I really should be doing, so what did I do? I built a small block Chevrolet and put in. This was hard back in those days. They didn't have the engine swap kits that they have these days. These days it's a whole lot easier. Back then, I'm surprised this sumbitch went down the road, to be honest with you. But anyway, put a small block Chevrolet in it, Saginaw 4-speed. That Jeep had the T18 3-speed, and you know, had plastics. You guys that know CJs, know the old Jeeps, you guys know those things had plastic synchronizers in them, and this Jeep had less than probably 40,000 miles on it. And when you would shift into second gear, I had to hold it in gear as I released the clutch, because if you didn't, when you let the clutch out, it would pop out of gear. So once you let the clutch all the way out, you could take your hand off the gear shift. But anyway, so I changed it out to a Saginaw 4-speed. Had that here in North Carolina while I was in the Corps for a couple of years till I finally killed it. And I got to running around with a bunch of guys, a bunch of local guys to the Jacksonville area. They had an off-road club. It was called Adult Toys. True story. So back then, rock crawling really wasn't a thing yet. It was mainly mudding. That's what most of us were doing. Maybe out west, you guys were rock crawling, but over here east of the Mississippi, it was all about the mud. And so we would go in Swansboro, North Carolina, there used to be a mud pit there called Swampy Junction. Every Saturday night, it was like, I'm going to say it was like $5 or $10 a vehicle. You'd come in and you didn't have to run the pit if you didn't want to. You'd line up on the side of the pit and everybody jump in the backs of their trucks and drink beer and hoot and holler and carry on. It was a big time. So anyway, I got to running around with those guys and ended up putting Dana 44s under it, and I was running 38.5-inch gumbo mudders, and I killed it one day all by myself. It had been similar to this, actually. It had been raining for several days, and I was stuck in the barracks, and there was nothing to do, and I just got bored. Back then, you could run out the power lines. The state had an easement, and they didn't care if you went up there as long as you didn't, tear the power poles down or nothing. So that was actually a lot of our wheeling trips back then. And you could run for, 10 or 15 miles. Anyway, it had been raining quite a bit, and I got out there, and like I said, I was by myself, and came to this little wash that I had driven through 100 times, and kind of waded out there up to my knees. I was like, yeah, this is fine. I can get through there, no problem. Well, I got out there, and about halfway through, my front tires just bottomed out, and I sucked about a gallon of water through the intake before I could get it cut off, and shot a piston through the oil pan, and that Jeep was pretty much done. That Jeep, having come from Ohio, it was a rust bucket anyway, so all the money I spent on it was just ended up in a dadgum junkyard. Fast forward a few years later, I bought a 97 TJ. I didn't have it long enough to lift it and start the build process, but I was newly married, kids on the way, and all that mess, and so that Jeep got missing. A few years later, bought a brand new 04 LJ. Didn't have it long either. My wife at the time, it was her daily driver, but I had plans for it and things I wanted to do to it, and she wasn't good with that, so the Jeep got missing, and so did she. Fast forward 10 years, well, yeah, about 10 years. I bought a 15 JK. I bought it in 2016. It was used. It only had 1,500 miles on it. I mean, it still smelled new. It was basically a new friggin' vehicle. So I bought that, and having had been out of the Jeeps for so long, and it was a JK, and all I'd known were TJs and CJs. I had to learn a lot. Well, I wouldn't say I was building that Jeep, but I was fixing it up, so I could do the things I wanted to do in it. Once I got to a point where, all right, I'd put this much money in it, I was still going to need, because it was a sport, I was still going to need to change the front axle, or at least do some significant work to it, because it had a Dana 30 in it. It still had 321 gears, and I was rolling on 35s. Friggin' sucked. And I was going to need to put lockers in it and all that stuff. So I was talking with my girlfriend, and she was like, why don't you just trade it and buy a Rubicon? And at least that way you'll have that platform to start with, rather than going and putting all that even more money into that one. So I thought about it, and I went backwards and forth about it for a long time. So I went down to the dealership on a Monday, and I traded the JK for the JL, which is now Napalm, which you all know. And that was on a Monday. The following Friday, I had it down at Uhari, bone stock. Did the gatekeeper on the front side of Daniel. That was a lot of fun. But anyway, so at that point, I started my thought process of where I wanted to go with this Jeep and laying out my build plans, because this Napalm is a build. It's taken a long time, but hopefully the end result is it's going to be a nice Jeep. So why did I start a YouTube channel? Well, having done all that work on the JK and having been new to the JK scene, not Jeeps necessarily, but JKs, I had to resort to YouTube for a lot of stuff. And what a lot of people don't think about is that YouTube's a tool. And it's not just for Jeeps, it's for anything. How to change a light bulb, how to do this, how to do that, whatever. But the whole thing that got me interested in doing a YouTube channel was the fact that even when I was building that JK, I would get on YouTube, and it's all done by keywords and your searches, and I could find help, but a lot of times I wasn't getting just the exact thing that I needed help with. And another thing that I also found out was some YouTube channels they'll edit out everything, so it makes it look like a seamless process. Everything works like it's supposed to, and everything's wonderful, and we're all smiles at the end of the video. That aggravated me. So when I started my channel almost 2 years ago, I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to edit out all the trouble I run into, because somebody that's looking at my video for this same thing, they're going to want to know how I went about fixing it. And now that also goes to say that doesn't necessarily mean I go about it the right way. This is how I approached it. So that's why I got into YouTube. I enjoy doing it. It takes a lot of time, and I want to help especially the new people, the new Jeepers that are out there that don't know a lot. Maybe they've never turned a wrench before. If you can change a tire, more often than not, you can do a lot of mods. You know, I wouldn't suggest trying to do a re-gear, because that's pretty in-depth. You got to have special tools, and you got to know what you're doing. But for the most part, you can build your Jeep. You can put your lift kit on. And that's my whole mindset. Do it yourself. If you guys have been watching my videos for any length of time, everything that's been done to this Jeep, I've done myself in my friggin' driveway, with one exception. That was the truss on the front axle. Leave a comment where you guys are from. I'd like to know where anybody who watches my videos is from. Maybe I'll catch you out on the trails one day, because I'm getting to that point where I'm going to start moving out and hitting other places and hitting other trails. I'd like to see you guys sometime. Hope this video was fun for you guys, gave you some insight to who I am. As always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And most importantly, keep the shiny side up. Jeep on.